Okay, Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Welcome this wonderful Shabbat. It is a few days before Lag BaOmer also, so a reason to be happy. And yesterday was a reminder was Pesach Sheni, the opportunity to, in biblical times, to go back to the temple. If you missed the Korban Pesach the first time, it becomes some people trying to revive it as an opportunity to revisit things that are missed opportunities, take it symbolically. But also this Shabbat, I wanted to focus, I came back just a week ago or so from Morocco and the very, very Jewish experience. So I want to make this a Moroccan Shabbat in many ways. So I'm going to open up and then I'm going to be talking at the end about my experience. So it should be a lot of fun. I hope you will enjoy it. We start out with a musical rendition of a Kabbalistic piyut in honor of Shimon Bar Yochai, the father, we may say, of Kabbalah, according to Kabbalistic lore. And so in Moroccan style, enjoy it, with African style.
שירו ושמחו אחי והתפללו אל חי בזכותו של בר יוחאי עם ישראל תמיד חי שירו ושמחו אחי והתפללו אל חי בזכותו של בר יוחאי עם ישראל תמיד חי הבטיק סוד עם עניהו ראו צדיק כי טוב הוא אדוננו בר יוחאי שירו ושמחו לחי והתפללו אל חי בזכותו של בר יוחאי עם ישראל תמיד חי לכל אריה ואדם קדוש אדוני בר יוחאי שירו ושמחו אחי והתפללו אל חי בזכותו של בר יוחאי עם ישראל תמיד חי אור ושמחה וגילה כי אל נור העלילה הוא בחר בבר יוחאי שירו ושמחו לחי והתפללו אל חי בזכותו של בר יוחאי עם ישראל תמיד חי והצילם מכל הרע בשובה ונחת הושיעה בזכותנו בר יוחאי שירו ושמחו אחי והתפללו אל חי בזכותו של בר יוחאי עם ישראל תמיד חי שירו ושמחו אחי אל חי, בזכותו של בר יוחאי, עם ישראל חי, גבורות לעמו עזר, ואת אויביהם.
Okay. So, בזכותו של Bar Yochai, and they mentioned Hilula de Bar Yochai, the celebration in the memory of Bar Yochai, which takes place at Lag BaOmer time in Tzfat and the nearby Meron, the hill where by tradition he hid out with his son for 12 years while receiving the mysteries of the Kabbalah from Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet. And what you saw is the Sephardic chief rabbi, previous Sephardic chief rabbi, Rabbi Amar, lighting the Lag BaOmer bonfires. So now let's go ahead and with our Shabbat, and we welcome everybody here and everybody who's following us. And we're going to start with the opening with Matovu together, page 2. Page 2. Matovu alecha Yaakov mishkenatecha Yisrael. Matovu alecha Yaakov mishkenatecha Yisrael. Ani tefilati lecha Adonai et ratzon Elohim v'rav chasecha aneni bemet yishecha. And we continue with the morning blessings on page 10. You can recite with me or just respond Amen after each blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan nosech v'navchim ben yom u'ben laila. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shasani b'tzamo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shasani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shasani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rok haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shasa li kol tzarki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechim mitzadei gaber. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, oz yisur b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ot yisur b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanoten yoif koach. Amen. And may be seated. We continue. Page 54. The opening to the verses of song, Psukei de Zimra. Praise be the one who spoke and the world came into being. Page 54 on the top. Baruch Shamar B'Yaholam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Hoseh Bereshit, Baruch Omer V'Yoseh, Baruch Gozer M'Kayim, Baruch Merachem Al Haaretz, Baruch Merachem Al Habriot, Baruch Meshalem Schar Tov L'Re'av, V'Chayad V'Kayom Lo Netzach, Baruch Bodeh Matzeh, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Atah Mecholam, Chayil Ha'av Rachaman Hamhu Lo B'Fi Amo, Meshubach V'Hari B'Shon Chasidav Abadav, Uv'Shirei Davdei Chana Lecha Nei Eloheinu, V'Shvachot V'Zmirot Negadel Chana Shabecha Chana F'Echa V'Naskir Shemcha, Namlicha Malkeinu Eloheinu, Yachid Chei Olamim, Melech Meshubach V'Ariyat Shmo HaGadol, Baruch Atah Adonai Mechmu Lo B'Tishbachot. And continue page 80 with the Ashrei, the opening verses. Happy are they who dwell in thy tent, in thy house, they shall ever praise you. Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, yalu chasela, Hashem shekacha lo, Hashem sharonei lahav, till David, Michal melech, Baruch Hashem, Ilat nida bepi, bevarech kavos Hashem kol shalom v'ehed, v'anachnu nevarech yamei teberelam. Hallelujah. And we continue now, page 80, the Hallelujah chorus, the last Psalm, page 100, the Psalm 150 on the bottom of page 88. Let's join in together. Hallelujah, 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 b'kadsho, hallelujah, hallelujah, b'kiya uzo, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, big Boratav. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Kerov, good Lord. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, beteka shofar. Hallelujah, hallelujah, beneve vechinor. Hallelujah, 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 betof umachol. Hallelujah, hallelujah, beminim ve'ugav. Hallelujah, 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 b'tzitzilei shama. Hallelujah, hallelujah, b'tzitzilei tu'ah. Kol hanshama tehaleya. Kol hanshama te'aleya, kol hanshama te'aleya, hallelujah. Kol hanshama te'aleya, hallelujah. Hallelujah. And we go ahead. The formal opening of the Shacharit, page 336. And 336. Shochenad on the bottom of the page. Then join in with me. Shochenad marom vekadosh shemo vechatuv ranu tzadikim baranai laisharim navatehila befi isharim tithalal of devrei tzadikim tibarach oveshon chasidim titromam overkelef kedoshim tehit kahadash overmarkalot tivevot amcha beit Yisrael sheken chovako yitzurim lefanecha noelahenu ve'elahei avotenu l'odol le'aleh l'shabeach lefaer romein l'adei levrech le'aleh olekales al kol divrei shir tishbechot David ben Yishavdecha Meshichecha Yishtabach Shemcha God Malkeinu Berachot Ve'odot Me'ata B'Yarolam Baruch Atar Adonai El Melech Gadol V'Tishbachot El Odot Adon Niflaot Abocher B'Shir Zihim Ramelech Okay, we're going to go ahead with the opening of the first verses of the prayer, giving appreciation of light and darkness, page 340, the middle of the page. Baruch atah machalam yotzer over choshech oser shalom over et hakol. And we continue with El Adon, and this we're sticking to our Moroccan mood today with this version of El Adon, and you can sing along with it. There we go. Sing along.
Hey. על כל המעשים ברוך ומבורך בפי כל נשמה גודלו וטובו מלא עולם דרד ותבונה סובבי באור
אדוני
מלאי מזיבום וגמנוגה נעזיבם בכל העולם שמחים בצאתם שדים בבואה עושים במה רצון הקונאם לכבוד נותנים לשמו צעול למרינה לזכר מלכותו קרא לשמש ויזרעו ואבק שקים צורת הלבנה צורת הלבנה שבע נותנים לו כל צבע מרום תפארת וגדולה סרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש.
Okay. Good mood setting for El Adon. A little bit slow, a little bit rhythmic. Go ahead, page 344. We continue with the vision of the prophets, how the angels give the praise of God. Middle of page 344. Kulam ovim, kulam berurim, kulam giborim, kulam osim evirotzon konam, kulam polchim et pihem b'kdush Torah, בשירם זמרם ברכים שבחים פרים מריצים מקדישים ממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול הגיבור והנורא קדוש הוא כולם מקבלים עליהם עוד מלכות שמיים זה מזה נותנים רשות זה לזה להקדיש ליוצרם בנחת ורפס ונאמר קדושה כולם כהרם ויעיר הקדוש קדוש קדוש אדוני צבאות מלך כבודו באופנים וחיות הקודש ברעש כרם מתנסים לעומת שרפים גם משבחים ואומרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. נוח חדש על ציון תאיר, וניסי חדן מאורו ליאורו, ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות. Page 346, we continue at the top of the page. Abba Rabba Haftanu Adonai Eloheinu Chem Lagedol Avitera Hamad Aleinu Avinu Malkeinu Ma'avur Avoteinu Shabbat Chuvecha Avinu Malkeinu Vatelamdem Chukei Chaim Ken Techanenu Lamdenu Avinu ha'av ha'rachaman hamrachem rachem aleinu v'tein belibeinu lehavin lehaskin lehashmir lishmoa limod ulelamed lishmoa velasot ulekayem et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha b'ahava v'ha'er einenu b'toratecha ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד. כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו. יפה ישועות אתה, ובנו בחרת מקולם ולשון, קרבתנו לשמך הגדול, סלע סלע באמת, להודות לך, ויחדך באהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר במעשה באהבה. And now for the Shema, I want to give us a flavor of the service as is conducted in Moroccan style. So the Shema will be chanted here by this Moroccan rabbi, and we can chant along with them. We're just going to do the opening of the Hafta, and it's about a minute or so. And I'll tell you when to say. Just, it's like a minute and a half. I'll cue you. Yeah. There we go, Moroccan style. A very clean, beautiful chant.
Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך,
Oh,
והיה
yeah.
אם שמוע תשמע.
Rest on our own. Just as we're doing it, just said this one has beautiful videos, images of life in Morocco long ago. We're going to continue now with the the rest of the Shema. Take the tzitzit in hand. Next paragraph we continue silently, page 348. Vaya im Shema tishmeu tzar Shem. למען ירבו ימיכם בימי בניכם האדמה אשר נשבעת לנו לאבותיכם אילם שמי שמיים על הארץ. Continue together. ויאמר אדוני משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם ונתנו הציצית על כנף פתיל תכלת ולכם לציצית וראיתם אותו, זכרתם מכל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם, ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם מכל מצוותיי, הייתם קדושים ללכם. אני אדוני לכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אדוני לכם אמת, אדוני לכם אמת. We continue now, page 350. Okay, bottom of page 350. Page 350. We continue at the bottom of the page. Dilo le'elyon baruch hu mevorach Moshe uvnei Yisrael anashira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh norati lot osefele shera chadasha shevchu geolim l'shimcha sefat hayam shera chadasha shevchu geolim l'shimcha al sefat hayam Yachad kulam odu, Yachad kulam odu, v'imlichu v'yamru Adonai yimloch le'olam. So Yisrael, kuma v'ezrat Yisrael, obdechinu mecha Yehuda v'Yisrael. Go aleinu Adonai tzivot shemo, Kedosh Yisrael Baruch Atanai Goal Yisrael. Before we start with the Amida, again, I want to get us a flavor of the Moroccan service. So I have the opening of the Amida, and I just want to start off to get us into the mood again. So we're going to put that on for us, and then we'll do the Amida ourselves. Go ahead, you found it? Okay. It's just like about 1 minute of it, just to give us a flavor.
שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך, ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים, קונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה מלך, עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני Magen Avraham.
There's something in it that is, in a way, similar in some way to the Ashkenazic melody of the Amida, more so than other Edot Mizrach. Something in it, and the style and the structure. So we're going to do it now together. Adonai sifatai tiptachu pi yagiti latecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei Avotenu Elokei Abraham Elokei Yitzchak v'Elokei Yaakov Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanara El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim v'Koneh Hakol V'Zachei Chasdei Avot V'Gevnehem L'man Shemo B'Yahava Melech Ozer Moshiach Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayeh Metim Atah Rav Loshia Shiv Haruach Umorid Hagash Morid Hatal Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed Mechayeh Metim Berachamim Rabim Tzomech Noflim Veropeh Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayim Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot Omido Melach Melech Memit Umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua Ne'emonat L'chayot Meitim Baruch Adonai Mechayeh HaMeitim Nikadeshim Chabalam Keshem Shmakdishim Oto B'Shmei Marom Kakatuv Ayad Nevi'echa Kazezevi Amar Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzivot Oretz Kevodo Oz Bikol Rash Gadol Adir V'Chazak Mashmim Kol Mitnasim L'Matzrafim Tam Meshavchim V'Omim Baruch Kavod Adonai Mimikomo Oimim Kamcha Ma'akenu Tafia Timloch Aleinu Ki Machakim Anachnu Lach Matai Timloch B'Tzion V'Met Olam Vo'et Tishkon Titgadal V'Titkadash Betoch Yerushalayim Icha L'Dor Ador U'Netzach Netzachim V'Eineinu Tirena Tirena Malchutecha Kadovo Omu B'Shirei Uzecha Ay David Mashiach Zekecha Yimloch Adonai Le'olam Elohai Tzion L'Dovado Hallelujah L'Dovado Nagin Gan Lecha L'Nehei Nitzachim Kedushatcha Nagdish Shivchacha Eloheinu Mipinu Lo Yamush V'Vet Ki El Melech Gadol V'Kadosh Ata Baruch Ata El HaKadosh Nismach Moshe Melech Nechal Keger V'Nekodem I'm going to go Okay. Turn back to page 358 and 358 for Yismach Moshe. I'm going to have this, it's an appearance by Joe Amar. Joe Amar was the father of the revival of Jewish Moroccan music in the contemporary scene. And he's brought into the stage by Arviu Medina, one of Israel's great songwriters. And so we're going to put that up for us, page 358. See it? That's the Yismach.
לא אשכח את התחרויות של יום שישי אצלנו בכיתה, במקהלה של בית הספר, מי ישיר בקול יותר גבוה או בסלסול יותר ארוך את השיר הבא. ישמח במתנת חלקו במתנת חלקו ומה קראת לו עבד נאמן קראת לו עבד נאמן קראת לו
אתה יודע שמתאים לך הכיפה?
מתאים.
אתה מנצח.
בגלל שהקרחת גדולה.
איפה הכוח שהיה לפני 40 שנה? במתנת חלקו במתנת חלקו ומה נתת לו בראשון נתת לו כתר בראשון נתת לו ישמח משה
So that gets us again that flavor of Mughrabi, the West, Morocco. And we now go to our section of study, page 650. 650, let's find it. From Pirkei Avot. It's number 21 of chapter 5. And it asks the question, how do we know somebody is a student of Abraham, the great Abraham, as opposed to the student of Bilam Harasha, the wicked Bilam. Bilam was hired to curse, he blessed, but not because he wanted to, but he was forced to, and then he trapped the Midian, the children of Israel, in a scheme of seduction, their only weakness. Page 650, so 21, number 21. Whoever has these three characteristics, Mitamidav shel Avram Avinu. Obviously, they're a student of or disciple of Abraham, our ancestor. So Shadrim Acharim, these three other characteristics, we know that they are of the school of Bilam Harashad, the wicked Bilam. And what are those three? Ayin Tova, Ruach Nimcha, V'Nefesh Shvela. If someone has a good eye, we look for the good in others. Ruach Nimcha, modesty, right? A humble soul. V'Nefesh Shvela, Shefala, and they translate a modest appetite. Not aggrandizing, not self-aggrandizing, not aggressive, not nefesh shefala, not self-aggrandizing, not greedy for everything. Mitamidav shel Avram Avinu. That's a student of Abraham. Ayin ra'ah, ruach gvu'ah, v'nefesh rachava. Tamidav shel Bilam Rasha. Somebody who has ayin ra'ah looks at everyone with jealousy. How dare you have what I don't have? Or ruach gvu'ah, elevates himself above everybody else. V'nefesh rachava, an insatiable appetite. That's how they translate unending want, desire for whatever it is that comes across. Mitamidav shel Bilam Rasha. That we know is a student of Bilam Rasha, and then it gives us the payoff. One who's a disciple of Abraham, our ancestor, enjoys this world, and enjoys the next world. And gives a proof text. And the students of Bilam Rasha, those that follow in the path of Bilam Rasha, Yoshim Geinom V'yodim Lebe'eshahad. They just get Geinom, they get hell, they go down to the fiery pit. And so you know where you want to end up? Up or down? Be like Abraham or be like Bilam Rasha? Well, that's the lesson from this. Page 20. The Kaddish Rabbanan. Joe, you're back. I give you the honor of leading us to the Kaddish Rabbanan. Amen. Amen. Yeah. Hey, Shmei Rabba Baruch. Wait. Hey, Shmei Rabba. Amen. Amen. Ose shalom. Amen. So we're now continuing with our Torah service, and we go to page 394. 394 to take out the Torah. So we need two to take out the Torah and open the ark for us. Page 394. Ein kamocha b'Elohim Adonai ve'ein kemasecha malchutcha malchut kol amim m'shatecha b'chol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Adonai oz le'amo yitein Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom avarachamim etiva b'tzoncha et Zion timnecha Yerushalayim timnecha mot Yerushalayim Tivecha leva batachnu melech Aram v'nisa Adon olamim Vayi b'saron vayomer Moshe Kuma Adonai v'yanfotzo oivecha v'yanusu nesanecha mipanecha כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים, ברוך שנתן תורה, תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה, תורה, לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. Page 398. Be'anarachet belishmei kadisha, kadisha yakira, ana amatush bechan, be'anarachet, be'anarachet belishmei kadisha, kadisha yakira, ana amatush bechan, Nehirava kadamach detiftach libi beoraita betashlim mishalin delibi baliba decholamach Yisrael letavu chayin belishlam. Amen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadol Adonai iti uneraham Shemo Yachdav Lecha Adonai Hagedol Hagevora Behatiferet Behanetzach Behahod Ki Chov Hashamayim Uvaretz Ki Chov Hashamayim Uvaretz Lecha Adonai Hamamlacha B'mitnaseh L'chol Rosh Romemu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu L'adam raglav kadoshu Romemu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu le'ar kadsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Okay, may be seated. It's organized. Our Torah portion for today, on the page 513, the portion of Emor. We're going to do the first third. The book of Vayikra, its original Hebrew term was Torat Kohanim, the Torah specific to the Kohanim, to the priestly tribe. And hence we get the word Leviticus in the Latin and then the English. And We see that it's the dedication of the sanctuary and then the orders of the sacrifices and so forth. Now it turns to the question, the Kohen. What do we expect of a Kohen? What are the restrictions on the Kohen? And with the Kohen, both the high priest and the associate Kohanim, the others who function in the Mikdash, in the sanctuary. So one of them has to do with who does a Kohen marry? Until today, that can cause a problem. In Israel, there was a man whose name was Cohen. There was a case like 40, 50 years ago, more. His last name was Cohen, and he wanted to marry a woman who was, I believe, a divorcee. Cohen is not allowed to marry a divorcee and a convert. Marry a widow, but not one of those two, because there are doubts, questions about why, and so on. So to avoid questions. That was the original intent in the ancient temple, and it continued. But he complained. He said, I'm not Cohen. I'm not a Cohen. The family name has a Cohen. It's a short for something else. The rabbinic court said, no, you got stuck with the name Cohen. So he flew to Cyprus. That's what the Israelis do when they want to avoid the case. They go to Cyprus, get married civilly, fly back. It's a half-hour flight, and that's how they avoid those problems. But it's like, yeah. But yeah, it does not transfer. Here's a good question. So it does not transfer to the daughters. So one of the questions we have in the portion is, well, what is the status of the daughter of a Kohen? In what condition? So, but we'll stick first to the marriage restrictions. So the high priest has a higher restriction. The Kohen may marry the widow. The high priest may, even the widow, must have a never before married and touched woman. He's got to be understanding. The reason is we don't want any kind of questions or doubts around the Kohen, because we want to create the sense of purity, absolute purity. And as much as we like it or don't like it, with sexual behavior, it becomes problematic. We don't ask the Kohen to stop sexual behavior like the Catholics do. We don't go that far, but we want to have some restrictions around the Kohen to create this special sense that someone is there going inside, serving us on behalf of the people towards God. We want to create that atmosphere. Same thing physically also then. We talk about the Kohen. Physically, he has to be in good physical condition, so that if he's deformed or maimed, he cannot function either. Okay. So my father said that in Germany after the war, he would no longer call up Kohanim for the Duchan, which is the Birkat Kohanim. He said, why? The Kohen, performing Birkat Kohanim, is performing as a Kohen. He also must be in physically appropriate condition. He says, after the Holocaust, you're maimed, you're injured, and so on. We don't know what I'm going to go and investigate if you've been maimed and injured. But let's not go into the question. We just won't do it. So going back to the Kohen, though, one other thing is the custom, the Kohen does not defile himself with the dead. The only exception being the immediate family, right? The first case, family. The exception being made when there's no one else to take care. So the rule is, if a Kohen comes across, wants to go to the cemetery, he doesn't go outside the paved area of the cemetery. That's generally the custom. It doesn't go into the grounds itself. But what happens if somebody finds a dead body and you're a Kohen? You must then take care of the dead body if there's nobody else there. Not that the person is alive and dying and you're going to take care of him, but the person already dead. Because proper care of the dead outweighs the question of the purity of the Kohen. Very interesting exception made in Jewish law. Very interesting question on that. So let me go back to this with the Kohen. In Israel today, it can sometimes be a problem, and all sorts of legal cases and complications would come up because of that. And so, as I said, the solution is you just fly to Cyprus and take care of it as a civil marriage. Or what a lot of Israelis do today is you'll write up a contract with an attorney, legal agreement about responsibilities about property and children, and you avoid the whole issue. I had an unusual case come to me I was lived in Israel for a while, and I served as a rabbi for overseas students at Tel Aviv University for a few months. I did that. And while I was there, there's some activities for them. So there's American students in exchange at Tel Aviv University. So a young couple came to me, and they were interested in getting married, and they were Bal Tshuva. They had not been originally or traditional Orthodox or observant, and now we're observant. And their question was for the girl. They had gone to the family rabbi and said, "Look, we want to get married." And the girl says her mother was a convert, but she was born after the mother had converted. She was born after the mother. She was born after the mother had converted. So if she's born after the mother had converted, she's born as a Jew. No question, no problem. The rabbi knew the conversion, it was fine, no problem. And then the rabbi asked him, "Have you ever lived with anybody in such a way over an extended period of time that you might be considered a common law marriage and might be considered binding?" And so the girl blurts out and says, "I did, but the fellow was not Jewish." Now the rabbi's faces dropped. Why? Turns out in Jewish law, if a Jewish woman has an affair with a Jewish fellow, it's not good, but it's forgivable. But if it's with a non-Jewish fellow, that's called sleeping with the enemy. All right, we know this in what happened in France to French women who were caught after the war because they had been with the German soldiers, right? So this is also in Jewish tradition, yeah. Jewish law, very specific. So it's why is this? Well, because they slept around, but they could get married. They could get married, okay. But with a non-Jew, impossible. So we'll see how it affects some other things in here also. He couldn't perform the wedding. So she asked me, is there some excuse? So some way. So I actually did come up with a way, but I don't think anybody would accept it, which is that there is a consideration in some Jewish legal texts that the way the non-Jews perform the sex is really not sex. It's like Clinton said, depends what sex is. And if it's not really sex, then she's not really had a relation. It's not the same thing. We can get her off the hook that way. So she wouldn't go through an Orthodox rabbi. She'd have to go to a non-Orthodox rabbi. No, well, even back in they were from New York. She was just exchange student. So she'd go back to New York, but she would need to go to a non-Orthodox rabbi. She might find an Orthodox rabbi that would be willing to ignore and not ask the question. Yeah. No, because she can't convert. That's it, because she's born Jewish. She can't convert. No. That's after the fact. No, good. So, we come across this again in Jewish case law. Oh. Yeah. No, just not to a Kohen. Not to a Kohen. So one of the things in Jewish legal practice was you don't ask, don't tell. Because there always would be questions that would arise. And so the rabbis in the past avoided questions. There are questions like a person who was a mamzer, who was a product of an illegitimate marriage or union, where the mother was married to the wrong man, not to the father of the child. And therefore the child is a mamzer and cannot marry somebody Jewish. So what would they do? They would send the mamzer, the child, it's not your fault, to the neighbor, to another town. We'll go to the other town. We're not telling them anything about your background. Go there, settle down, they're not asking questions. Paul says, don't ask too much. You ever hear this statement? Joe, you know this, feignish. Feignish kein kasha. Wenn man fragt, this is treif. Also, don't ask, because if you ask, you know it's treif. That's why you're asking. You're asking because you know it's treif. So that is how, but where the problem arises in modern Israel, because now you have an organized state where they have adopted and continued the original Turkish system. The Turkish system was that every faith community was responsible for its own marriages. And so you have an administrative structure. The Turks set it up, the British continued it, and the Israeli government decided we'll keep it because that way we avoid conflicts about, fights breaking out about who's going to get married with whom. So you have now a legal structure. Then you have a legal structure where there are rights and benefits about who is Jew, who has paternity rights, things like that. You can no longer avoid those questions. And hence there's no end of legal issues. As I say, you go to a non-Jewish rabbi, it's a non-Orthodox rabbi, or among the rabbis, the more liberal of the Orthodox rabbis who will wink at these issues. And that's the usual approach. So in the conservative movement, we come into the question, we no longer, for example, hold the question of a convert or a divorcee being not acceptable for marriage to a Kohen, because the premise was maybe there was a fault with her. We say we cannot assume a fault with the divorcee, not necessarily because the divorcee had some affair with someone else. That's no longer a basis for divorce, so we cannot make that presumption. The same thing for the convert, because people coming with Christian or Muslim backgrounds, they have a sense of morals and ethics. We cannot make the assumption that they're all immoral, as was under the Roman times. So again, we go ahead and we accept that. The condition being technically, though, if a Kohen marries the divorcee, he gives up the #1 spot. That's the price. You want your cake? You can't have your cake and eat it too, right? That would be the consideration. Okay, so let's go ahead then. Chapter 21. 513. There we go. There. Good. Yeah, oh, you've got the sheet here. Okay, good, that's fine. Okay. $513. Yamod Moshe ben Yitzchak Cohen, right here, verses 1 through 6. 513 through 6. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. So,
ברוך ה' מבורך לעולם פועל.
Baruch Adonai Havarah L'Olam Vayet, Baruch Atah Adonai Elohim Melech Haolam Asher Banu Mikol Arami V'Talanu Et Torah. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. ויאמר אדוני משה אמור לכהנים בני אהרון ואמרת להם לנפש לא יטמא בעמיו כי הם לשערו הקרוב אליו לאמו לאביו ולבנו ולביתו ולאחיו ולאחותו הפתולה הקריבה הקרובה אליו אשר לא הייתה לאיש לה יטמא ולא יטמא בעל בעמיו להיכלו לא יקרחה קרחה בראשם ופאת זקנם לא יגלחו ובבשרם לא יסרטו סרטת קודשים יהיו לאלוהים ולא יאכלו שם אלוהים כי את אישי אדוני לחם אלוהים הם מקריבים יהיו קודש ויהיו קודש.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natalanu Torah emet v'hayei olam nafto b'cheinenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Page 514, 7 through 12. Yeah, jumps over to the middle of the next line. Yeah, page. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, and now we call our wandering Levi back from overseas. A special event in Dachau.
Yeah, lots
Remember
of
the
lots of
liberation.
events. I was very busy.
Yeah. Good busy. Yeah, we were doing. Yeah. Good.
Thank you. Baruch Hu Adonai Hamevorach. Baruch Hana Baruch Lelam Boet. Baruch Adonai Melech Haolam. Asher b'chabonim b'kol ha'amim. V'natan lanu estorusoi. Baruch Atu Adonai noten haTorah.
האישה זונה וחלה לא ייקחו ואישה גרושה מאישה לא ייקחו כי קודש הוא להביא כרשתו כי את לחם אלוהיך הוא מקריב קודש יהיה לו לך כי קדוש אני אדוני מקדשכם ובת איש כהן כי תוכל לזנות את אביה היא מחללת באש תשרף והכהן הגדול מאחיו אשר יוצג על ראשו שמן המשחה ימלא את ידו לבוש את הבגדים, את ראשו לא יפרע, בגדיו לא יפרום על כל נפשו, מת לא יבוא לאביו ולאמו, לא יטמא מן המקדש, לא יצא ולא יחלל את מקדש אלוהיו, כי נזר שמן משחת אלוהיו, עליו אני אדוני.
ברוך אדוני המלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת חי אמת לבשרנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Very interesting also. There are two elements in this that are forbidden to the priest and especially to the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, that are essential in the pagan rites. One of these is not taking care of the dead, even if it's the family of the Kohen Gadol, even the immediate family. In ancient Egypt, what was the job of the priest? Was to prepare the body of the pharaoh for the next life. That was his main function. This is forbidden. The other thing is an indication. The Kohen does not make gashes, not a balding in the head, not gashes in the skin. These were very characteristic of, again, functions of the ancient priests. When Elijah is on top of Carmel in his debate between the priests of Baal and himself, they are gashing themselves till blood is flowing. The Kohen may never do that. Right? We're doing everything possible to separate the Kohen from paganism and from the involvement with death. Kohen's function is involvement with life. Very different take on things. Okay, and so we go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know why this happened. I thought, the Roman Catholics that they take on a lot of the rituals that are laid out here.
There's some,
See that they what they call it.
The kippah, the beanie, or the tonsure. Right. The tonsure. Yeah, that's why the Jewish word, the Yiddish word for a priest, Catholic priest, is a galach.
A galach.
A galach.
What is galach from? Shave, galuach, because you identify the tonsure and also there's certain, also that too, if you ever look. And it's a good question because there's some things that they do take. It would seem, yeah. But some things also take from the Roman Pontificus Maximus, right? Also some things from that because it's taking over right?
That makes
That's so there's certain things. Now, the kippah
yeah.
is because of the tonsure. Because you're sitting in the monastery, it's cold, and you've got a bald spot. You put something to cover the bald spot. That's where it originates. That's where it originates, right? And in the Jew, it was just general head covering of all sorts. It would be the talit over the head, would be a shawl over the head, and a hat. Yeah. Yeah. So the kippah is just what this, the same thing. You know, it's, I want, the customer was to keep one's head covered. So it was available, it was around. It's an easy way to cover one's head. It's not just Christians, also Muslims cover their heads, also very common. Also with a kippah, if you ever look, they tend to be a little bit bigger. Huh? So it's yeah, it's somewhere. It's old custom has it that somebody who's dignified doesn't go bareheaded. Sign of royalty, the sign of rank, the noble rank was to have some kind of cover, usually the scarf over the head, shawl over the head. Yeah.
But you're not about their head covering in the church or the.
That's later. Yeah, that's the church's take on it. But as we go into earlier times, across the Middle East, you'll see that. Head covering is a sign of a dignified person. The slave did not have head covering. It's the person who was a free person had the head covering. So it became associated with dignity and honor, respect. So a scholar would not go without his head covered. And hence comes the tradition. Out of that arose the tradition of covering one's head when one was studying or saying a blessing. Out of that grew the tradition of having the head covered at all times. It was, a sense of having the feeling of presence of God at all times. It's not grounded in Jewish law. The Shulchan Aruch doesn't even put it as an actual. It says one should not go about, but it doesn't anchor it in particular law. But it's become in accepted Jewish custom as if it were a law. That's it, minhag kedin. But it's very hard to find any actual halachic basis, solid halachic basis, where it is obliged in Talmudic or dictum or in Mishnah. Yeah. Next one.
The daughter of the priest.
She's in trouble, isn't she?
Okay.
What they don't tell you is that, as the rabbis interpret it, if she's single, not engaged, she does what she wants to do. We don't hurt her. Only, I know, it's only if she's engaged or married, which is the same thing for non-Kohen. If you look at the biblical law, the same case. She's single, we can give her a pass. Well, maybe she'll get married to the guy. It's when she's engaged. Engaged because engaged is like married. That's right. She's like married. It's just almost as married. So she's violated them. So now the question is she to be burned with fire or by strangulation? Let's pick your choice, which is better. No, it's skila, sorry, or stoning. Pick your choice. And that's the whole difference. Not much of a difference. Okay. We'll go into that, the question of the status of women, where is it? But if you're single, yeah. As opposed to being stoned. That's the difference. But only, as I say, she was married or engaged to be married. Because if she was single, nobody's chasing her. I don't know. No, burning was biblical. The punishment of burning was, we go into the kinds of death penalties. But what the rabbis do is work out, how can I do the death penalty in such a way that it doesn't hurt? And as minimal as possible. Not unlike what the other peoples did in death penalties throughout the centuries, which was you have the person drunk or drugged or whatever before, things like that. And speed. Okay, we'll go into a whole question of how did they apply. All right? Okay, let's go ahead.
ברכה בת חיים ומנוח. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה, אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה, אדוני, נותן התורה.
והוא אישה בתולה ייקח, ואלמן וגרושה וחלה וזונה את אל לא ייקח, כי אם בתולה מעמיו ייקח אישה לא יאכל זרעו ועמיו, כי אני אדוני מקדשו.
ברוך אתה, אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה, אדוני, נותן התורה.
Aliyah number 4, verses 16 through 24.
יעמוד
Abraham ben Hirsch. Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol hayamin v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. משה לאמור דבר לארון לאמור איש מזרעך לדורותם אשר יהיה בו מום לא יקרב להקריב לכם להבקיע כל איש אשר בו מום לא יקרב איש עיוור או פיסח או חרם או זרוע או איש אשר יהיה בו שבר רגל או שבר יד או גבן או דק או תבלל בעיניו או גרב או ילפת או מרוח אשך כל איש אשר בו מום מזרע אהרון הכהן לא ייגש להקריב את אישי אדוני מום בו את לחם אליו לא ייגש להקריב לחם אליו מקדשי הקודשים ומן הקודשים יאכל אך אל הפרוכת לא יבוא ואל המזבח לא ייגש כי מום בו ולא יחלל את מקדשי כי אני אדוני מקדשם. וידבר משה אל אהרון ואל בניו אל כל בני ישראל.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet ve'hayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yeah. Okay, continue this 6 Aliyah. 5th Aliyah, 1 through 9. 1 through 9, yeah, 5th Aliyah, 1 through 9, chapter 22. Page 515, over to the next page, end of line 9. Okay.
Zev ben Moshe.
ben Moshe.
Baruch es Adonai Chamvara. Baruch Adonai Chamvara Olam Voed. Baruch Ota Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bachar Bono Mikol Chalmim, Sanam Chalonu Torosa, Baruch Oto Adonai, Naseim Chatara.
Amen.
Baruch Oto.
Not yet. Make sure I'm on the right line. Yeah. Amen. וידבר משה לאמור, דבר אל אהרון ואל בניו, וינזרו מקדשי בני ישראל, ואל יחללו את השם קודשי אשר הם מקדשים לי. אני אדוני אמור עליהם לדורותיכם, כל איש אשר יקרב מכל זרעכם אל הקדושים אשר יקדישו בני ישראל לאדוני, וטמאתו עליו, ונכרתה הנפש ההיא מלפני אדוני, לפני אני אדוני, איש מזרע אהרון, והוא צרוע או זב בקודשים, לא יאכל עד אשר איש יטהר ונגע בכל טמאי נפש, או איש אשר תצא ממנו שכבת זרע, או איש אשר ייגע בכל שרץ אשר יטמא לו, או באדם אשר יטמא לו, כל טומאתו נפש אשר תיגע בו וטמאה עד הערב, ולא יאכל מן הקודשים, כי אם רחץ בשרו במים ובא השמש וטהר, ואחר יאכל מן הקודשים, כי לחמו הוא ונבלת שריפה לא יאכל לטמאה בה, אני אדוני וישמרו את משמרתי, לא יישאו עליו חטא ומתו בו, כי יחלו אני, אדוני, מקדישם.
ברוך אותו אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, חיי עולם נוטה פשענו, ברוך אותו אדוני נושאים התורה.
Amen. 10 through 12. Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah.
Neither man nor beast is blemish may be presented for Adonai. Why do we have so much more of blemish?
So much for what?
Blemish than on the red heifer may not be blemish.
Right, right.
Anyone separated, neither man nor beast.
Right, right, and the offerings. Yeah. Right.
It's so much blemish. There are more people that have.
Right, right. So you're restricted to very, very few. All right. So there was also a case where the high priest had a dispute with the rabbi about how the offering was to be made. The rabbi had the high priest's ear on the spot in the dispute, thereby disqualifying the high priest. That's how you saw it. I'm not saying he did the right thing, but that was, you can see, right? So to be blemished was hard. Yeah, you have to, the same thing with all the offerings. Right. And right. And it is, again, tradition about the destruction of Jerusalem under the Roman Empire that it is said that someone was told the Jews would rebel, the Roman emperor sent an offering. They would accept the offering, but that person then made sure to put a blemish in the ox that was sent or whatever. They disqualified the Roman emperor, saw it as a rejection of the emperor, not as a rejection of the animal. And so it is said by tradition that act started the war with Rome. Now, again, hard to find the unblemished. You're right. We want to give the best. It's we want to have a sense that what we're putting up is the best physically. Yeah, but we're looking at what does it make us feel? The impact. When we see a person, a human being in the top form, standing up there, right? Like Franklin Roosevelt was never seen in a wheelchair. Same thing. The impression. What impact does it make? So the same thing with the animals. Same thing. It is because the visual. We are human beings, and so the visual is very important for us. Now, with a blemish, when in Jewish tradition, if we see someone who is deformed, we are supposed to give a blessing, which is we praise God for making variations in his human creatures. So we as human beings, yes, ourselves, we have to teach ourselves to accept people in all forms, shapes, and so on. But again, we're aware of the psychological impact. And what we're doing here is the impact on the people. We don't have Kohanim anymore, so we solve the problem. I mean, like Kohanim, we don't have any temple anymore to function, so we don't have that problem, right? Now we don't have to worry about that presence. Right?
It really discusses Vespasian.
Vespasian, yeah, that's the argument. Right. That was the long fight that had to do with an insult that was never settled. Okay, so we continue. What did I say? 10 through 12.
Ben Robert.
Huh?
Stephen Ben Robert.
Him said, yeah.
Okay.
Say, wait a minute, say the prayer.
Okay. Baruch es Adonai Ham Barak.
Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'nosan lanu es taroso. Baruch atah Adonai nosein ha'torah.
Lines 10 through yeah. Where did I just go? Let's go. Yeah.
You lost it.
Ah, here we go, up here. Okay. וכל זה לא יוכל קודש תושב כהן ושכיר, תושב וכהן ולא שכיר לא יוכל קודש כהן כי יקנה נפש קניין כספו הוא יאכל בו ויליד ביתו הם יאכלו בלחמו ובת כהן כי תהיה לאיש זר היא בתרומת הקודשים לא תאכל ובת כהן כי תהיה אלמנה וגרושה וזרע אין לה ושבה אל בית אביה כנוריה לחם אביה תאכל חוזה לא יאכל I went too far. קודשים לא תאכל. That's right. There we go. Went too far. Okay, go ahead.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nosan lanu toras emes v'chaya olam nata basachenu. Baruch atah Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen.
So where we are now.
Okay, 13 through 16. 7 till the Yeah. 13 through 16, 7 till the Okay, number 7.
Yeah, more.
Oh, my name?
Yeah.
Oh, James Aaron, my father.
Yeah, and your Jewish name?
Nissan.
Nissan,
Yes, yes.
Okay. Right over here.
Okay.
Take the talit here
Okay.
first. Yeah, take the talit here to the spot first. The talit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, put you to the
Okay.
spot first. So it's around the page. Go ahead.
Okay. Horseshoe.
Go ahead.
Baruch es Adonai Barak Baruch Adonai Hambarak Barom Oed Baruch Adonai Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Mekar Eloham Asher Bokar Bonu Mekol Hamamin Vanosolim Valu Esoroso Baruch Atah Adonai Nosan HaTorah.
Amen.
Like, oh,
ובת כהן תחיה לאיש זר הוא תרומת הקדושים לא תאכל ובת כהן כי תהיה אלמנה גרושה זרע אין לה ושבה אל בית אביה ונעוריה בלחם אביה תאכל וכל זר לא יאכל כי איש בו איש ואיש כי יאכל קודש בשגגה יוסף חמישיתו עליו ונתן לכהן את הקודש ולא יאכלו את קודשי בני ישראל את אשר עמו באדוני ותישאו אותם עוון השמע באוכלם את קודשם כי אני אדוני מקדשם.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nosam lanu soras emes v'kaya olam nota v'sokayin kanu Baruch atah Adonai nosam HaTorah.
We'll just repeat the. Yeah, let's just repeat. Yeah, just repeat them after. Yeah. There we go. Continue with the. Continue with the prayer for those who are ill. Go. Pray for those who are ill. Mishaberach, Abatenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Sarif Karachei B'leah. V'berech v'rapeh et hacholim. May the Holy One bless our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Becca, Rachel, and Leah. Bless and heal Joe Alexander, Barbara Drato, Ronnie Duran, Esther Elisheva, Harriet Levins, Moise Ben Manya, Barbara Mormon, Judy Alkali, Richard Zeller, Judy Smith, Samuel Smith, Douglas Workman, Esther Gearson, Esther Vanat, Arthur Vanatek, Daniel Avidan, Roger Rosen, Robert Drato, Rachel Flala, Susan Tuchman, Inga Boost, John Deborah Robin, Rosaline Batrivka, Jeffrey Buck, Marvin Katz, Andrea Vasiliev, Leah Dorf, Mike Dorf, Mazal Ray, and Marilyn Freed, and Lib Bat Sarah, Herb Mormon, Anna Sarah Leah, Bat Rachel, Hannah Sarah Bat Kayla Alta, Sophie, the friend of Judy Alkali, Yafa Bat Sharifa, Hannah Sarah Bat Sarah, Hannah Bat Sarah, Irina Sepian, Alan Whalen, Laba Masha Ben Sarah, Jennifer Fraser, Yob Ben Hannah, Shoshana Bat Sarah, Eli Bukim, Louis Jason, Yitzhak Ben Carola, all those afflicted by viruses and wars and violence in our own country and elsewhere. And we add our thoughts, we add Simar Lev, Ronan Terlev, Susan Feinberg, Sharon Lipman, Esther Batsiba, Sarah, Flex, Adam Flex, Joseph Persino, Vlad Alex, and Glar, and Wendy Keller. Any other names of people who are ill? Okay, all those we have mentioned, those who are ill that we have not mentioned, we say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleichem, may the Holy One have mercy and compassion upon them, to heal them, strengthen them, both in body and in mind, to them and to the whole house of Israel, to all peoples, and let us say Amen. And let's join together in chanting the Mishaberach together. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Bless those healing with refuah shlema, their renewal of bodies, their renewal of spirits, and let us say Amen. Amen.
Yisborach, Yishtabach, Yisboar, Yisramam, Yisnase, Yishadar, Yisaleh, Yisalo, Shemay de Kudisha Barich, Elam and Kol Berachata, Vishirata, Tush Bechata, V'nefemata, Damiram, Amen. Yamod Harav Nachman ben Harav Zev Mafti.
After rereading the last verses, chapter 22, verses 13
Go to 16.
Yeah.
But
5:16. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaBarach.
Baruch Hanam Barach Lo'elam Poel.
Baruch Hanam Barach Lo'elam Poel. Baruch Atah Adonai Me'cholam Asher B'cha B'anu Mikol Amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
ובקונתי תהיה לאיש זר, והיא ובתרומת הקודשים לא תאכל ובת כהן כי תהיה אלמנה גרושה זרע אין לה וישבה אל בית אביה כנעוריה מלחם אביה תאכל וכל זר לא יאכל בו ואיש כי יאכל קודש בשגגה ויוסף חיים אשתו עליו ונתן לכהן את הקודש ולא יאכלו את קודשי בני ישראל את אשר הרימו לאדוני תישאו אותם עוון אשר אוכלם את קודשיהם כי אני אדוני
מקדשם.
ברוך אתה מחולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיים בתוכנו, ברוך אתה נותן התורה.
Amen.
Okay, strong arms. Strong arms. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Move it down, Louis.
Move it down. Yeah, and then leverage
Oh,
it here
oh.
this way. Go down this way. Now push down.
There.
So you leverage it
no.
and twist up with your wrist.
וזאת
So you leverage it.
התורה
That's it.
אשר משה. Judy.
And, yeah, just walk down into the seat with it.
וזאת
Go ahead. Watch your steps carefully.
התורה אשר משה. בני ישראל אני אדוני ביד משה. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה, סמכי המיושה. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה, סמכי המיושה. ורחנו בכל חיינו עם, וכל תקוותינו שלום. ורחנו בכל חיינו עם, וכל תקוותינו שלום. What do you do about? Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie.
Okay. Well, we owe one to Joe. Agomer. Baruch.
Oh.
Baruch.
ברוך אתה ה' מלך העולם הגומל החדים טוב שגומלים לנו כל טוב.
מי שיגמוך כל טוב, הוא יגמוך כל טוב סלע. You came and you went and came back for a good mission. Talk about to testify about what we have been through.
I had a very busy mission.
Okay.
I was doing a lot of talking. Love. In one day, 4 sessions in one day. Plus two interviews from a reporter.
You were close to what?
In Dachau.
I know. Yeah, this time you were as a welcome guest. It's different.
Matter of fact, I had one high school group from Israel.
Oh.
And a cousin of mine came with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Joe was in Dachau, of all places. This time as a welcome guest instead of a prisoner. Page 528. No, actually, it was there before, right? You were there before in Dachau. You were back before.
In 2015.
Yeah.
Was the last time.
Page 528. It's from Yecheskel, the prophet Ezekiel, and he envisions how the status of the Kohen would be in his day in the return, and he makes changes. There's some changes in the law. He makes the rules about the Kohen even stricter than they were. And that is 528, and maybe because in his thinking, the Kohanim of his day deserve what they got, and they need to be held to a higher standard. So he's setting up some higher standards for them. Page 528. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'neviim tovim v'ratzah v'dibreihem hanemarim b'emet. Baruch atah Adonai הבוחר בתורה ומשה עבדו בישראל עמו והאמת והצדק. והכהנים הלוויים בני צדוק אשר שמרו את משמרת מקדשי בתאות בני ישראל מעלי המה יקרבו אלי לשרתני ועמדו לפניי להקריב לי לחלב אדם נאום אדוני אלוהים. המה יבוא אל מקדשי והמה יקרבו את שולחני לשרתני ושמרו את משמרתי. והיה בבואם אל שערי החצר הפנימית בגדי פשתים יבשו, ולא יעלה עליהם צמא בשרתם בשערי החצה הפנימית הביתה. והרי פשתים יהיו על ראשם, מכנסי פשתים יהיו על מתניהם, לא יחגרו ביעזה, פסייתם, החצה החיצונה, אלא עם יפשטו את בגדיהם, אשר המה משרתים בה, והניחו אותם בלשכות הקודש וילבשו בגדים אחרים, לא יקדשו את העם בבגדיהם. בראשם לא יגלחו פרא לא ישלחו, כסום יקסומו את ראשיהם, ויין לא ישתו, כל כהן בבואם החצר הפנימית. I'm going to continue the last few lines. ראשית, כל בחורי, כל תרומת, כל מכל תרומותיהם, לכהנים יהיה, וראשית הריסותיכם, תיתנו לכהן להניח בברכה אל ביתך. כל נבלה טרפה מן העוף ומן הבהמה, לא יאכלו הכהנים. ברוך אתה ה' מהחלום, צור כל עמים צדיק בכל הדור, אלא נאמן האומר ויעשה, המדברים קיים שכל דבריו אמת וצדק, נאמן אתה נהנו ונאמנים דבריך, בדבר אחד מדבריך, הכל לא ישוב ריקם, כי המלך נאמן ורחמן, אתה ברוך אתה ה' אלא נאמן בכל דבריו, רחם אדוני אלוהינו ציון כי בית חיינו, ולנו בית נפש תשיב במהרה בימינו, ברוך אתה ה' משמח ציון בבניה, שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו, עבדך מלכות בית דוד משיחך, במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו על כיסא לא ישב זר ולא יאכלו אחרים את כבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו שלך בן נר לעבד, ברוך אתה ה' מגן דוד על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה, שנתת לנו אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת על הכל נהיינו, אנחנו מודים לך, ברוכים אותך, ושמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה ה' מקדש השבת.
Amen.
Okay. We're going to continue now. The English had their coronation of the king, and they had the very big religious ceremony about it. The throne, the special throne, and all sorts of 2 thrones. Both. So he's got and there's a step. Right. Yeah. Okay. So very interesting comments on it so far that I know that what one of the great things is the first time the Jews attended the coronation of the king was in the 1100s, and they were beaten up because somebody thought they were coming to attack the king. This time, they made a big deal. There was also in previous coronations, also Jews were invited, but a big deal. The chief rabbi, being involved in the ceremony and making sure he had a place to stay next to the coronation, so he wouldn't travel on Shabbat. Baroness something, yeah. Yeah, I said, I think the president of Israel was there also, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But there was, and the king is now defender of all faiths, which I think is a beautiful thing. It's the defender of the faith. So I'm trying to be comprehensive, which reflects England as it is today. So, but we wish the English well. They have a difficult road in many ways. We have a difficult road to hoe and road to go also in our case. But let us pray for our government now. Page 415.
Yeah, but I'm glad that the coronation is tomorrow.
No, it's been done. It's already finished. But we're behind them in time. It wasn't
because I know because I stopped in London yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yesterday, Friday.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Friday. Yes. Yeah.
Because
I think the coronation was
Saturday.
But today.
Yeah, so it was already.
Yeah. So
12
it's
hours.
good.
About 8 hours ahead of us, I think.
Page
7.
Because I had the layover yesterday in London.
All right, page 415. I need a prayer for the United States. We're American.
Judy.
British. Judy, go ahead.
wisdom, insights of your Torah, that they may administer all affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom may forever abide in our midst. Creator of all flesh, bless all the inhabitants of our country with your spirit. May citizens of all races and creeds forge a common bond in true harmony, to banish all hatred and bigotry, and to safeguard the ideals and free institutions which are the pride and glory of our country. May this land under your providence be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom, and helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. And let us say,
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And I would pray for the people of Israel. Well-being, let's put it up on the screen and we'll join in together, page 460. The English phrase. Together. Avinu Shebamayim, so Yisrael Galo, Borechet Medinat Yisrael, Eshit Micha Gulatenu, again Aleha, Bevrat Haslecha, Ufros Aleha, Sukat Shlomecha, Zachacha B'mitcha, Nosher Sarei V'yotzeha, Taknim Beitzah Tova Milfanecha, strengthen the hands of those who defend the Holy Land. Avinu Shema Shamayim, deliver them and crown their efforts with triumph. Avinu Sheba Shamayim, so Yisrael V'Galoho, bless our land with peace, O God, inhabitants with lasting joy, and let us say, Amen. Avinu Sheba Shamayim, so Yisrael V'Galo, Borechet Medinat Yisrael, Eshit Micha Gulatenu, again Aleha, Bevrat Haslecha, Ufros Aleha, Sukat Shlomecha, V'Noma Amen, V'Noma Amen. And let us go and return the Torah to the Ark, page 422. Need someone strong arms to carry the Torah around.
Okay. Come on.
Okay, that's right. You still got the power. Good. Go ahead, pick up the Torah. Isaac, yeah, go ahead, pick up the Torah, and you're going to carry it. Okay? Good. Yalelu et Shem Adonai, Kines Gav Shemo Levado, Hoda Leretz V'Shamayim, Vayarem Kerem Le'amo, Tehila Lecho Chasidav, Livnei Yisrael, Am Kerovo, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Mizmor LeDavid, Avul Adonai B'nei
Avul Adonai,
Kavodos, Avul Adonai Kavod Shemo, Ishtach Avul Adonai Behadrat Kodesh, Mayim Kavodirim, Adonai Mayim Rabim, Kol Adonai, Kol Adonai Behadar, Kol Adonai Shaber Arazim, Vaishaber Adonai Tazeh Halvanon, Erkedenk Megavon Vasirion, Kemo Ben Remim, Kol Adonai, Chotzed Lavotesh, Kol Adonai, Yachim Midbar, Yachil Adonai, Mibakadesh, Kol Adonai, Chole Layalot, Yachsof Yorechel Kolo, Merkavot, Adonai Lamabul, Yashav, Vayeshev Adonai, Melech Leolam, Adonai Oz Amo Yitain, Adonai Varech Et Amo Bashalom.
Nichayom.
Es Chaimi Lama Chazik Bar Betomcha Meusha Deracheha Lacheinu On the Tiboteha Shalom Ashivenu Elecha Benashuma Kadesh 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 Yameinu Keke. Please be seated. Now getting back to our Morocco theme, I have this Enke Eloheinu, I think it is again with Joe Amar. And it's done to a little rhythmic march melody, page 508. Enke, and then we can sing along.
אדוננו, מי כמלכנו, מי כמושיענו. נודה לאלוהינו, נודה לאדוננו, נודה למלכנו, נודה למושיענו. ברוך אלוהינו, ברוך אדוננו, ברוך מלכנו, ברוך מושיענו. אתה הוא אלוהינו, אתה הוא אדוננו, אתה הוא מלכנו, אתה הוא מושיענו. אתה התושיענו, אתה תקום תרחם ציון, כי עת לחננה.
Good. Nice rhythmic march tune for Enke Eloheinu. Page 510, let's rise for Aleinu. Someone open the ark, please. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon. Ola take to the Yotzeya Breshit. Shelo Asanikei Haratzon. Velo Samanu Mishpachot Adama. Shelo Samchel Keinu Kahem. Vigor Aleinu Kecho Amonam. Manachnu Korim. Umishtachavim Umodim. Lifnei Melech. Malchei HaMlachim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Noteh Shamayim v'Yosed Haaretz, U'ma she'bikaro b'shamayim b'ma'al, U'shchinatu zo b'gavei meromim, U'Eloheinu emet malkeinu efes ulato, Kakatu b'torato, Yadata hayom hashivota elevavecha, Ki Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim mima'al, v'al haaretz, mitachat eino. Ne'emar Haya Adonai lemelech ha'koharet Bayomahu Yeh Adonai Echad U'Shemo I can be seated. Somebody passed away just this week, significant. I'm trying to remember who it was. But Harry Belafonte had Jewish ancestry, by the way, that came out. But somebody else passed away this week. Gordon Lightfoot, who sang the song, but somebody Jewish speaker. Remember, writer, songwriter, novelist, somebody. But but somebody Jewish. I don't know if it was Jewish. Oh, okay. We'll remember afterwards. So we add our thoughts to those who passed away this year: Erna Nissan, Shirley Marco, Ed Gush, Hannah Melamed, Lane Goldsmith, Steve Alexander, Manli Ben Shaul, Dovtal Ben Avram Tzvi, and Simi Yocheved. Also to mark the yard site of Julius Grush. Any other names to add? And so those who are reciting them on this Kaddish, please recite the Kaddish with me. It is found on page 512. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabba, V'yama Divra Chirutei, V'yamlich Malchutei, V'hayachon, V'yamechon, Chaye the whole Beit Yisrael, Ma'agalav Bizman Kari V'imro Amen, Yehi Shmei Rabba Morach Le'olam L'mem Maya, Yiborach, V'yishtabach, V'yipa'ar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yitalev, V'yithalal, Shemei Dikucha Berihu, Leila min kol bir chata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, d'amram b'yoma v'imramein. Shlomo Rabba min shemayev, chayim aleinu v'akoyse v'imramein. Otze shalom b'imramav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'akoyse v'imramein. The one who makes peace in the heavens above, great peace among human beings below, to us and to all Israel, to all people. And let us say Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay. Give me the share screen. Yeah. Yeah.
No, you see, you put somebody's probably said cover. No, mine cover. There's a cover and a cover. Cover is near the Russian border. Yeah, K-O. You see, it's K-A-V-L. V-L-A.
That's like
cover.
It's very. My father's from Dolina, but in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Dolina, and there's a Dolina in another district which was in Poland proper. So, but one was Dolina before the war, and one was Dolina after the war.
Yeah.
And they changed the names and they changed the borders, so sometimes it is confusing. Please be seated. Please be seated. Any special announcements? Our guys. Okay, our wonderful guys who are here with us, especially for AV, because we're trying to get him to Israel, and we have been able to get about halfway through the funds necessary. Okay, so we want people to pitch in, get in touch with Carmen. It's tax deductible. Write it off as the synagogue donation, scholarship, youth scholarship fund. I'd like to go with the Joe Alexander Youth Scholarship Fund. That's what I want to call it, because he's the youthful one here.
Yeah.
He's the youngster here, and let's get them off on a plane. And then 2 years from now, I think we'll be ready for Isaac also. Isaac, I think it'll be easier. We'll have more time to plan. We'll get it right for you. Okay, so we'll work on it. Paige. So I want to go now to my story. Simon, were you visiting somebody in the hospital? Was it somebody in the hospital you were visiting? It looked like.
Simon here.
Yeah.
I didn't know Simon.
Yeah.
You're here.
It looked like it. Yeah. Okay. Here's my share screen, share sound. Okay, now I'm going to fun part. Fun part. We can have fun, can't we? Right, Michelle? So this is my going to say about Jewish Morocco then and now. And when we need, I'll make it large. I think you can see some of the words. I want to prove my credentials that I really was in Morocco. So last time I rode a camel before this was 50 years ago. I was in the Sinai Desert. And then I did this, right, 50 years later, and I'm going to wait another 50 years before I'm going to camel again. There's the one I got on was the meanest one in the bunch. And one of the travelers with us was thrown off the camel. Luckily, she came out. She was pretty good about it. She was just bruised and she got up right away. But there's my camel. Nasty, nasty guy. Didn't want to. Huh? Gamal. Gamal. That's me. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, you want to see me. You want to see me. Okay, there, that's me. Okay. Holding on, holding for dear life. Don't worry about it. Keep when the camel's about to throw me. Yeah. Okay. I want to say this. Yeah. No, but they're nasty animals. Horses are nice. You go on a horse, nice, giddy up. Camel stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Right. That's the one, because North Africa is the single hump. Yeah. Do you like one lump or two lumps with your camel? Right. That's right. So, but I got a great appreciation for the Moroccans that we met. And I have to say, this goes back really for Americans. Nobody knows this. On December 1777, the Kingdom of Morocco was the first country in the world to recognize the United States. That was a year after the Declaration of Independence. A year after, they were the first ones. And it was the first country then, Amazigh, Arab, African, Muslim, of those states to sign a treaty with America. So I actually found, what? Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, but this was official in the recognition. It was the first Arab North African country. Yeah. No, but they say it's actually the first official one to recognize it. I don't know if Haiti recognized it right at the start. Interesting. So there is the official treaty. I've got in there for you. That's the sign. Yeah. There we go. So we owe them one also. So, but the people of Morocco, very warm, friendly, and peaceful, going out of the way to be helpful. And there was, you actually saw very little police presence. There was traffic checks at the entrance to the cities, and they have had trouble with terrorists, especially because of Western Sahara. But other than that, as people, calm, relax. Even walking in the poorest sections of Casablanca, we felt pretty secure. No pickpocketing like I had in Italy. And Morocco is listed as one of the most safe and secure countries in terms of violence, crime, things like that. Actually, on an international scale, relatively stable. It's well-developing, economy is developing, and it is fairly democratic. The king has a control, but among the democracies of the world, it's actually doing okay. So here, in the market, you see I went around the market just to prove here, the scale, the guy puts onions to balance the scale. Right? We got some, right? Onions to balance the scale. So we're there with the people. Now, we're there also with the chickens, about to become somebody's feast for the iftar, right? We were there. It was the time of Ramadan. We were on public buses, and it went through upscale and low-scale neighborhoods. We watched high school kids give up the seats to the elderly, help the blind woman get off the bus safely. Go try taking public transit in LA. Same situation. Of course, it also doesn't hurt to see the lives of the rich and famous also. Okay. Here is a lobby inside. It's the average suite, only 5,000 a night at the Royal Mansour in Marrakesh, where the top, the Royal Suite is 40,000 a night. This one was only 5,000 a night. Not bad. We got a beautiful room, equally as beautiful, for 77 a night in Marrakesh. So, because the dirham, it's about the equivalent of a dime, approximate. So it's 10 dirham is $1. Yeah, it's the Moroccan dirham. The Emirates have a dirham also. So now what's interesting, it was Ramadan also. If you know, Ramadan is the whole month of fasting, very serious month for Muslims. No eating from the crack of dawn. Crack of dawn means 4 o'clock. It's not when the alarm goes off, it's 4 o'clock. The first rays, the first till 7:30 at night. When the dark is going all the way. And in the summer, it's harder. Summer is harder when it comes up to summer. And I had read that especially as you get towards the end of Ramadan, they can hold up the first 20 days. So as you come to the last week or so, it gets very hard for them. And they get anxious and irritable. And I would say I didn't see any of that. Our guide, who was a young fellow, you could see he was lost his voice a little bit towards the end of the day. But he held up pretty well. And maybe it is that because they were in this continuous Yom Kippur, 30 days of Yom Kippur, that the people maybe became more thoughtful than they might be in other times. Very interesting. Okay. So because of that, during the day, the streets were very quiet. But after sunset, after the iftar, from the Hebrew word, related to the Hebrew word maftir, conclusion, iftar rooms passed, right? Everything perked up. So here's a mall in Casablanca, beautiful mall, all the top-end stores, an aquarium in the middle of the mall, right, with some sharks in it, and everybody's gathered at 10:30 at night. They ate their iftar meal. In fact, if you don't get there in time to the restaurants, there's nothing left. We went and we got there, everybody eating everything, so we ended up with the Domino's pizza there. Working a day. Okay, you have to do it in a timely manner. But what was nice was that they immediately broke out there was a band, and the band sang, and they all sang along with the band this song. Let's see if we got this. Tell me if you hear it. Oh, no, where'd it go? French. Because everybody in Morocco speaks French. Arabic speaking French. The song is a French song. We listen to it, and we all say, wait a minute, we all know that song. It's an Israeli song that we also know. Right? Same music. Here, just put this on just a little section. This is the Israeli version of the same song. No, this is the Israeli version. The original version is a French, it's a Moroccan singing in French.
לבד לא אני לא קיים היא עוברת בה אני שוב כאן היא כמו שמש בין עננים יש בי עישה רגשות כנים תראי איך עוברות.
So I'm not sure to play. You can find it, Aisha. You can find the original French. Yeah. Switched. Yeah. There's several things. There were several changes that he made for the internal reasons that he had. Was moving Yom Kippur to the idea of Ramadan, moving the day of prayer from Shabbat to Friday, moving the Qibla, the orientation, away from Jerusalem to Mecca intentionally. But what was nice is at the end, as I say, when the sun is set and everybody's eating, then everybody's mood is very good. And at the end, you have the Eid al-Fitr, which is the holiday of completion, and it's followed by 3 days of public vacation, and everybody's in a vacation mood in the country. So I'm looking at this song, Aisha, that's its name, and I said, it's interesting here. The Moroccans love it, Israelis love it. We have a point of commonality. And it turns out that the connection between Morocco and Israel is much deeper than people knew. It goes back behind the scenes, back to 1948, and continuously, even though it's only official since 2020. So in these recent years, Israeli tourists and business people have been going to Morocco so often, everybody there speaks Hebrew. It seems like it. So here's a sales pitch for Moroccan argan oil. It's a beautiful oil. They produce dietary benefits. Okay, so she's going to tell us about
תגידי, נו, תגידי.
לאוכל, לאוכל. אוקיי.
לא לאוכל, לשמנים.
לקוסמטיקה.
כן, לקוסמטיקה.
זה שמן ארגן לקוסמטיקה. זה לשיער, פנים לגוף, נגיד נשירה, נגיד קשקשים, ליובש, זה 100% אוריגינל, טוב לכל. אוקיי?
מה הוא טוב?
זה שמן ארגן אלוקליפטוס, זה נגד כאבים. שמן ארגן רוז, אורנג', לואיזה, יסמין, זה טוב למסאז', ליובש. זה שמן סברס, 100% אוריגינל. זה טוב לפנים, זה נגד קמטים, זה כמו בוטוקס. פעם בשבוע, פעמיים בשבוע, אין.
Okay, so you rush out and buy argan oil. What's very interesting is, I'm not sure if you can sense the nuance, she's speaking Hebrew with a French accent. Because again, the French influence is so very, very strong that when you're learning a foreign language, it sort of overrides the Arabic. So more than any other Arab state, the Moroccans are keenly aware of a Jewish connection. Holocaust is actually being taught in the school system since 2019, and school textbooks have been edited to teach a favorable image of Jews. And this is widely known. This is an ADL report. Morocco's Ministry of National Education, the country's elementary textbooks depict Jews as an integral part of Moroccan society whose heritage and societal contributions are national assets. This is a contrast to textbooks in other countries in the Middle East and North Africa where Jews are routinely demonized and positive descriptions of Jews are scarce. Very different tone. Everywhere we're told, our guides repeat it, says, we know that there are three peoples of Morocco, Berbers, Arabs, and Jews. Berbers, Arabs, and Jews. Those are the three indigenous of Morocco, yeah. Oh, Jewish saints, yes. Very. So we'll go into that. Yeah, I'll show you. So the question, well, how deep does this connection go? At every point, our guide emphasized the Berber connection, Amazigh, the free people. That's the name they use for themselves, as well as his own Berber roots. And they prefer this term Amazigh, free people, the language Tamazigh, and the alphabet Tafinich, indigenous to the people. They're the indigenous people of North Africa, across all of North Africa, those peoples, Berber, Tuareg, they are the original peoples. They precede the Arab conquest, and they're still fighting to maintain a distinct language and identity. All the governments, the Arab governments, tried to suppress the Berber identity. Moroccans came to the idea of the king to integrate the Berber identity. And so all signs are in Arabic, Berber, as well as Latin letters, all signs. So here's our guide. Nice young fellow. If you know a nice girl for him, he's still single. Okay, good guy. Here is his card, Murad El Bairi. Okay, if you would like to touch base with him, there you got it. Really good guy. He was very good. He was good. He knew an awful lot, and he understood a lot, and he knew what we were looking for. The group was not a Jewish group originally, but it just turned out that it was about 3/4 Jewish, mostly Israelis. So he knew what spots to take us to. All right. So same thing by emphasizing the Jewish roots. He emphasized it all the time. We went up to a waterfall deep inside the Berber Atlas Mountains, Orica waterfalls, and there was a guide who took us up, made sure we didn't break our necks falling down. His name was Ali. Thank you for keeping me from breaking my neck. He helped me down. And also he emphasized, oh, we're Jewish, right? Very big thought. Well, okay, where does this come from? So I found a book called Between East and West, and I thought it was so good, I had it with me, so I'd know what was happening, and I gave it to the guide at the end. But here I pulled out some relevant passages from it. Referring to a legend, frequently recurring legend describes a Palestinian origin to the indigenous Berbers. So Byzantine historian Procopius, the Phoenicians, as they flee before Joshua, and Phoenicians it's the same word, it means the same thing, left the Palestinian homeland, migrated across Egypt, spreading out as far as the Pillars of Hercules. Pillars of Hercules, that is Gibraltar, right? And an ancient legend, well known. It would seem indeed that the Berbers actually are a peoples that originated closer to the Near East and spread their way westward across North Africa. So that there may be historic roots to that legend. So in his days, the natives of North Africa spoke Punic, Phoenician, a language closely akin to Hebrew. And we have a Punic inscription on 2 stone columns at a place called Tigris. It is we who have taken flight before that bandit Joshua, the son of Nun. Right? So now we ran away from this Joshua. Somebody had made an inscription. So the persistence of the legend derives from this profoundly Semitic character of North Africa during the nearly 7 centuries of Carthaginian domination. Remember Carthage, right? That almost took down Rome. It was a Phoenician city. Karta Hadasha means the new city in Phoenician. And Kiryat Karta, Kiryat, Hadata Hadasha. And then they had colonies all the way to Gibraltar. So, more about the Berbers of Canaanite origin, theory taken up by the Muslim historian Ibn Khaldun, is the father of modern history and sociology, almost 1,000 years ago, who wrote the Berbers are the descendants of Canaan, the son of Ham, son of Noah. They received their Judaism from their powerful neighbors, the Israelites of Syria. So he recognizes that they had adopted Judaism from the next door neighbors, the Israelites. Josephus also makes a claim that the Berbers have a Semitic origin from Midian, the son of Abram by his second wife Keturah. Remember that they also connect the tribe in the desert, the Sinai desert, related to Moses, to his wife. A Talmudic text also talks about the Girgashites, one of the 7 nations of the land of Israel at that time, who left in a treaty with Joshua, and they, the Talmud says, got fine land in exchange. Africa meaning North Africa, in particular Carthage, North Africa. That's the origin of the word Africa. So the first communities would be the time of destruction of the temple by Nebuchadnezzar, and then the second exile, also westward migration. And the first Jewish settlers retained in the new environment the use of their own language, which the Punic neighbors understood. They could use their language to settle and do business because they had mishpucha there, right? It enabled them to adapt to their new home and was similar then to the one they'd been forced to abandon. So look at this, the Carthaginians. Hannibal, that is Hani, by the grace of Baal, which is used in the Bible also for Jewish names in the Bible. Like Yeroboam is Yerobaal, Hannibal, Hananiah. And there's his brother Hasdrubal, Barca. SD is for the ayin, Zion. Hasdrubal, Ezra, Ezrabal, Ezariah, Barca, Baruch. To the other, Baruch or Barak, one or the other. And then when you have the fall of the second temple, estimated 30,000 Jews were deported to Carthage by Titus. Josephus records the presence of 500,000 Jews in Cyrenaica. Cyrenaica is Tunisia, I think, or Libya. Yeah, I'm not sure. What's a type? Carthage is Libyan. I think Cyrenaica is Tunisia. Okay, getting my map mixed up. And then there was a rebellion by the Jews of North Africa against the Romans. They were brutally suppressed. That stopped their spread. So what happened was the survivors of that rebellion fled westward, what's called the Caesarean province. That means what was called Mauritania, not Mauritania on the map today, but Mauritania, northern Morocco, and crossed the Sahara from oasis to oasis, reaching as far as the Niger River, right, deep into Africa. And then they spread westward, Mauritania. As I said, it's a Roman colony between Morocco and Algeria. All of these places, Sétif, Alma, Pasa, the Volubilis, we end up at one of the places, Volubilis, the ancient Roman capital there. And they found an inscription going from that period, Matrona, daughter of Rabbi Yehuda, rest in peace. Going back to the 3rd, 4th century, you can sort of make it out. Mem Taf Resh. No, it's hard to make out, but it's there. Matrona Bat Rabbi Yehuda, the daughter of Rabbi Yehuda, rest in peace. So the author asked the question, well, what was it that drew the Berbers to Judaism? And our guide emphasized this also. the concept of monotheism, the moral code and religion inspired by the Bible, it influenced the Berbers. The Berbers were considered wild people, wild savages. And they came across these people who are of a more advanced civilization. And they're impressed by it. And this is what is generally presumed. And so they were influenced by the ancient Israelites, also the Carthaginians, familiar maybe with some of the legends and the tales and the ideals. And we don't know if they all suddenly converted to Judaism, but they did pick up and adopt Jewish beliefs and observances, so that one of the Christian founding fathers, Tertullian, who lived in North Africa in the 3rd century, reported that Berbers observed Sabbath, Jewish festivals of fast, and the dietary laws. Very widespread. So what really stopped the expansion of Judaism there was not pagan Rome. Pagan Rome, after a while, actually gave the Jews a pass. It was Christian Rome that went heavily to stop and suppress Jews and Jewish identity in those realms. And the Berbers resisted as much as they could. And they resisted against the Romans, they resisted against the Islamic Arab conquerors also. And according to a legend, the hero of this resistance was a reputedly Jewish queen. And it's also from Ibn Khaldun, the great historian. And he writes that when the Arabs reached North Africa, a number of the Berbers professed Judaism. Among the Jewish Berbers, there was the Jarawa, a tribe in the Awas region to which belonged Kahina. It's more in Algeria than Morocco. And so Hassan, the leading general of the Arabs, was told of a woman who ruled the Berbers, Kahina. She dwelt, he was told, in the Aras mountains, and this Jewish woman could foretell the future, and all that she predicted came to pass without fail. If she were killed, Hassan was told, he would meet no resistance after that. So he marched against her. In the first battle, he lost, and she was queen of the Maghreb for about 50 years, and then she was defeated in battle, and the Arab conquest went on across Morocco into Spain. We give ourselves credit. We don't know for sure. It's hard to know if she really was Jewish or not, or a mix of Jewish and Christian and pagan. It's hard to determine. But from that point on, the bulk of the Berbers accepted Islam. There was always a stubborn remnant surviving. DNA studies show that the Jewish Berbers of North Africa are much closer to other Jews, whether Ashkenazic or the rest of the Mizrahi Jews, than to their Berber neighbors, even though they were very closely intertwined. Still, that original Jewish settlement retained its identity. The others found it easier to absorb Islam and then take over North Africa with Islam instead of bucking it. And they became the rulers of North Africa for a long time. So, on just some other things, by the way, Morocco, there's a question, where's the origin of the word Morocco? They believe it actually has come from the city Marrakesh, but in Arabic it's also referred to as Maghreb. It's a ha. It's the Arabic equivalent of the ayin. And so Ma'arab, the West. Maghreb means the West. So Morocco is Maghreb al-Aqsa, the farthest west. It's the Atlantic, not the Mediterranean. Just when you see that term Maghreb, means the West. Ma'arav, the West in Hebrew. All right? In Jerusalem, in the middle of Tel Aviv, there's a center of Tel Aviv. It's called Mughrabi, right? Mughrabi, right? It's because it was Moroccan, right? It was, I think, somebody from Morocco maybe founded it. So those original Berber Jews are referred to in Morocco as Toshavim. Toshavim, the residents. That's how the Jews and Moroccans describe themselves. The Toshavim, we are the residents, the originals. The others are Meguroshim, the exiles. So we'll talk about that. So the ongoing excavations here, just recently, there's a report about a synagogue from some remaining as far back as the 3rd century, being excavated in the desert, in the Atlas Desert, in the Atlas Mountains. That's recent. That's in cooperation between Israel and Morocco, being able to carry on expeditions. Well, here are the Toshavim, the original Jewish Moroccans. The Moroccans of Berber Amazigh origin. Here, men. It's from 1900 photograph. And here, magnificent Jewish woman. Notice the face tattoos. Very common of Berbers. And the Jewish Berbers use the same tattoos, same facial tattoos. So now we get, that's more recent. I think that's, maybe one of the recent immigrants to Israel, or I say recent, 1960 maybe. Now we get this wave of Jews from Spain. Some of the Jews come from Spain because the kingdom of the Almohades had invaded Spain proper, and they were militant Muslims and forced conversion on Jews. And Rambam, among others, Maimonides, escaped to Morocco and he settled for a while in Morocco. And then with the Spanish Inquisition conquest of the rest of Spain, the Reconquista, right, and the expulsion of Jews 1492 and the Inquisition followed, we have the Megurashim, the expelled ones. The Jews also were coming in from Italy at the same time. So now what you have in Italy, in Morocco, is the layer of the original Berber Jews with an overlay now of Sephardic and Italian Jews. And that changed the atmosphere of Moroccan Jewry. They remained separated for a long time. Gradually, they blended so that now, I think in the last century, 2 centuries, there was no longer any significant difference between two communities. But it took time. Like all integrations take time. What's fascinating is that when the Europeans discovered Morocco, they wanted to draw and paint people from Morocco. You couldn't get Moroccan Muslim women to pose because they were covered. They weren't allowed out. Jewish women were liberal. Jewish women were the liberated ones. So Delacroix, the great Jewish painter, could make this painting, the Jewish woman of Algiers. I'll make it larger, right? She's relaxed. She doesn't have to hide anything. Her face is open. And this famous painting of a Jewish wedding. Mixed company, the young woman is dancing, he's playing, nobody is uptight. This would not have been possible in the Muslim setting. So Jews are much freer in many ways, much more open. And it shaped, because of this openness, it also shaped actually the physical structure of the Jewish quarter, Melach. Melach, M-E-L-L-H, you see it spelled that way as they pronounce it, Melach, they think from the word melach, salt. Arabic and Hebrew, the same word, because maybe salt cellars were located there when they started. It turns out, interesting, the king wanted the Jews near him. So when the king moved, he would force the Jewish community to move the Jewish quarter. It was much to keep an eye on them, is also because he needed them. They were very useful. And your protector was useful to you. In the old quarters of Arab cities, you have what's called the Medina. Medina, same word in Hebrew, meaning a place, a jurisdiction. We use it today, mean a country, but originally meant a city-state. So the Medina is the center city, core city. In the Muslim sections, there are no windows to the outside, only to the inside courtyard. So we walk along through the corridors of the Medina, and we see very small doorways. The door to enter is about this high. You have to bend down. There's a bigger door, so if you want to bring in your donkey, you open the bigger door. Well, how does anybody know who's there? The Moroccan woman could not be seen by the public. There was a lattice over the doorway. She could climb up, peek out, and if it was somebody who she knew and trusted, she could then open the door. All right? So when you go to Muslim quarters, you'll see the women's quarters, the windows are covered with a dense lattice work. They can look out, you can't see it. Jewish balconies were just the opposite. Jewish women could stand out on the balconies and call out to their neighbors. And in Israel till today, Jewish mothers shout out to the kids below from the balconies, right? Mazal, Tavoy Abaita, Yosef, Tavoy Abaita, right? Our life is outside. Very different atmosphere. You can see the open porch, the open balcony. That's not in the Muslim quarter, only in the Melach. The Melach was much better in many ways than the ghetto. The Jewish ghetto was really a rough place. The Melach was a much better place. So it is the Amazigh, the Berber Jews and the Sephardi Jews that shaped the Moroccan story. So as we go on, life under Islam was better than under Christianity, but remember this comparatively so. Jews were always in the class of dhimmi, second class, protected status. When you have to be in the protected status, it means you got to pay, the boss is controlling you. And they would often be the objects of actual physical attacks. Pogroms were not just in Christian Europe, they were also in Muslim lands. We have to recognize it. And status of Jews went up and down depending on the ruler. And they survived mainly because they were too valuable to the Islamic civilization. They were the craftsmen and the moneylenders and the merchants because they could do business with Muslims and they could do business with Christians, just as they served that function in Christian lands. In Islamic society, the proper role of a man is to either be the farmer or to be the soldier, but not to be involved in trades and crafts. That was not considered in early Islamic societies as noble. Europeans also they wanted trade with North Africa because they had things they needed. So they needed the Jews also. So that benefited the Jews. However, what happened? The Europeans then discovered the Americas. And they discovered an access for trade and resources. They didn't need to deal with North Africa because North Africa, remember, it's not just North Africa, it's also had to deal with the Ottomans who controlled the Mediterranean Sea. So it was much easier to go to the Americas. And that meant that the Jew became less important in the Moroccan economy. So while Morocco, like other parts of Arabic civilization, that was at its heyday, you had a burst of Jewish creativity also. So to give credit, the first university in the world was founded by a woman. It was the first institute to issue actual degrees for levels of study, Al-Qarawiyyin from Kairouan, which is now Tunisia. She's in Fes. She was originally from Kairouan. That's why I got that name, city of Fes. It was a mosque, 857 or 859, and the mosque served as teaching academies. Her name, Fatima al-Firhi. She beat Al-Azhar by a century. The Egyptians claim that's the oldest university. Google has Bologna, the University of Bologna, but that's 2 centuries later. And as I mentioned, this Ibn Khaldun, the father of modern economics and sociology and historiography from the Middle Ages, he spent the study. She should be. She should be. And not only that, Moroccans should get the credit. They should take it from the Egyptians and from the Italians. All right? Forget Oxford and Cambridge. They're much later. Yeah. So anyways, there's the library at Kairouan. This is the entrance bibliothèque. This is on the top line, that is the what they call tifinagh. And they think the tifinagh may come from the word Punic, from Phoenician, inspired by. It's not sure. They're not sure exactly where the origins are, but there may have been some Canaanite Hebrew influence in the development of it. There's some Greek influence in it. You can see some similarities to some kind of Greek writing. So anyway, so this is reflecting who are the great people that came and studied there and used that library. And it became then a center for Jewish learning. So just to give an example, major figures, Judah ibn Quraysh, the father of Hebrew grammar, and he was the first one to study comparative languages with other Semitic languages. And then Dunash ben Labrat, who Rashi quotes very often, it was in Fez 929-90. He was the one who defined the 3-root system for Hebrew verbs. They replaced the earlier 3, the core verbs, the core letters in Hebrew were 2-letter base. Right? We take it for granted that every word in Hebrew has in Hebrew, not the borrowed from language, has a 3-consonant root. Before that, it was assumed there was a 2-consonant root where one of with an additional consonant would be added to vary it. Now, it's a 3-consonant root, which is what it has in common with Arabic and also the African languages, what we call Hamitic languages. So, but Dunash ben Labrat is the one who defined it for us. And then the great symbol of Hebrew scholarship, North Africa, Rabbi Isaac ben Yaakov Al-Fasi, meaning from Fez, and the graduate of its colleges. And he drew up what was very important because the Talmud is very difficult volume to go through because you don't know the beginning and the end. What he did is use the order of the Talmudic argument, summarize it, and came to a final conclusion based on what were the accepted practices of his day. So one would go through the unit of Talmud and you would read his various, and you understand what you're getting at. And it became one of the foundation books for Jewish law. Studied in Spain, Provence, Rhineland, Central Europe, and Poland, and still studied in rabbinical schools. And talk about rabbinic academies, Cairo, Tunis, Algiers, Tlemcen, Fez, and also small schools. They were the guardians of learning and culture. And that's what sustained the Jews then through the darkest ages in North Africa. So also Kabbalistic, she was asked about Kabbalistic rabbis. It became a center for major Kabbalistic rabbis as well. Their graves a pilgrimage site for Muslims as well as Jews. Jews went to Muslim grave sites, Murabutin, their grave sites, and Muslims came to Jewish grave sites. And we were on the plane coming back, and some Hasidim from New York are sitting next to us along Payas, and they had been in Morocco. They went on a prayer binge. They'd gone to the Ukraine to pray in the grave of the Lubliner, I think it was the Lubliner Rebbe, and then flew to Morocco to pray somewhere deep in the Atlas Mountains, the grave of a tzaddik. Okay, well, I mentioned that the economic status of Jews went downhill as the Mediterranean trade with Europe went down, and many Jews were reduced to very extreme poverty, restricted to Melach, until the Europeans discovered again the value of North Africa, because now they were new powers. They beat back the Ottomans. And having beaten back the Ottomans, they could control the Mediterranean, and they also were able to beat back the bays of North Africa. And then they discovered Jews, much as Jews also discovered the Europeans. And so with modern times, like about 2 centuries ago, we find the condition of Jews improving once again. And prior to World War II, the Jewish population of Morocco, 225,000, right? Beginning to be prosperous, beginning to be influential, Francophone, Algeria even more so. The Algerian Jews became entirely French, so that when Algeria became independent, they all went to France. They were no longer Jews, they were French. Moroccans still thought of themselves as Jews, so they went to Israel. To the credit of the French king, of the Moroccan king, Mohammed V, when the Vichy, under the Germans, imposed restrictions against Jews, he told them directly, he met with representatives from Nazi Germany and Vichy France, and he said, there are no Jewish citizens, no Muslim citizens, they're all Moroccans. And he did what he could to protect Jews. So they were relatively safe. I think the movie Casablanca has some hint of it about persecution of Jews, because that's under the Vichy. Under the Vichy French. So the Vichy French are they're Nazi allies. But they didn't have a strong control over them, so they could hold on to the Jews. There still were outbreaks of violence against Jews, especially in 1948, and Jews began leaving. They said, okay, we're tired of, yeah. Go. The Sephardic exiles. Yeah. The Sephardic, right. No, Spain, Christian Spain. Those are the ones. The natives are the ones who were the Jews that the Romans kicked out and the Babylonians kicked out. They're the same. But these are the ones that mainly the Spanish conquistadores finished. We don't need our Jews anymore. The Jews built up Christian Spain, and then they didn't need us anymore. They kicked us out, including their own treasure. Okay. So anyway, Jews in Morocco, there were violent pogroms with the rise of State of Israel. Jews decided it's enough. They began leaving, and so a large number left between 48 and 56. Then, when Morocco gained its independence from France fully, they closed the gate. They wouldn't let the Jews leave. They didn't want the Jews to leave. They wanted to keep their Jews, and only in 1963 were the rest allowed to leave. So right now, there are only about 2,500 Jews still living in Morocco. Right? Only 2,500 Jews in all of Morocco, but they want this Jewish connection. The rest of the Jewish community is in Israel, the Balkan Israel, France, and also here in LA. We've had members here, Moroccan Jews, right? But what's interesting, the few that remained are very prominent, like the advisor to the king, Andrei Azulai, and Jews, and especially Israelis and Moroccan origin, have significant business relations with Moroccans. Very important for Morocco. So I just wanted to say this. Now, documents came out showing, by the way, that Morocco was influential. Israel was influential in stabilizing the Moroccan king against opposition underground. And the Moroccans were important in helping Israel in the Six-Day War. I guess they gave information to the Israeli military. So they were going underground, very close, keeping the ties to Israel. Then it was continued with King Muhammad V, Hassan II, and now Muhammad VI. Very protective of the Jews. And so, like I said, not many Jews left, but those Jews that are left have deep roots, and a lot of Moroccan Jews still have properties and businesses in Morocco. Current king is Muhammad VI. Yeah. So I'm going to give you a visual tour of some significant Jewish sites. I will wrap up. Nice pictures to share with you. This is the route of our tour. Here's Morocco. What's interesting, I say some of it faces the Mediterranean. The great bulk faces the Atlantic, which gives it an unusual position, covering both seas and linked to Europe and Africa. Historically, this is very, very significant. Okay, so there's a pretty big chunk of Morocco that we went through from Casablanca to Rabat, the capital, the Meknes, which were an earlier capital and also early Jewish site. Yeah. Oh, there's a split. There was Spanish, Ceuta. You can see it on the map barely, Ceuta. And then, of course, the British get Gibraltar on the other side. Tangier was Spanish, it's sometimes called Spanish Morocco. So I think now it's Moroccan Authority, but I think they recognize some special condition. Europe has a lot of sites like that where they belong to one country, they have special status also. So Meknes, Fez, and then we went down to Marrakesh, spent time out into the desert here. I atlas in this Mogador, which is Assuwira, and then back along the coast. So that's my travelogue. So now you remember the song, Crosby, Stills and Nash, the Marrakesh Express. So what's special about it? So when we got to Marrakesh, we discovered. So here I have my, just to prove I was there, guide to Marrakesh for Israelis in Hebrew, sponsored, of course, by a kosher restaurant there, Dar Ima, the house of Mama, mother's house. Dar meaning a house, the word Dira in Hebrew, cognate, very close cognates. And you have here the entrance, Bab al-Malach, the gate to the Jewish quarter, and over here, Salah al-Azama, the Salat al-Azama, the synagogue of the exiles. And over here, Salat Yosef Bitun, the synagogue of Yosef Bitun. I'll show you something later. Okay. And go ahead. Here, in this, there was the local Jewish museum. This was a classroom. You see, and they still have some of the textbooks of the kids here. And this is in that synagogue, the exiles synagogue. Salat, meaning a prayer, place of prayer. Okay, there's the courtyard inside what was the synagogue. Now it's become a Jewish museum. And there's a sign as you come into the entrance in Hebrew, also in English and in Arabic. Everybody knows and will testify that there is no Torah as the Torah as it is in Marrakesh. And I can't make out the name of the rabbi who claimed it, but it was a major center of Jewish learning in its day. And here the synagogue, Salat al-Azama, Salat meaning again, place of prayer. La-Azama, synagogue of the exiles, built by Jews expelled from Spain in 1492. Rabbi Yitzhak Daloya arrived in Marrakesh, served as president of the court and head of the community. And he founded the synagogue, 1492. Okay, so now let's see what else we have from there. There we go. If you don't believe me, it says La-Azama, synagogue, 1492. And the address there, Talmud Torah 36, the Talmud Torah Street, number 36. Okay, that's a new plaque, yeah. But it's recalling. Yeah, the older one there, Francisco, and it's another. Here we go. So now, inside the synagogue, very well kept up nicely. Some of the synagogues have been remodeled, restored very well. And Here's the entrance to the Jewish quarter, Bab il Malach, Bab meaning a gate, like in Bavel, the gate of the gods. Bab is in Hebrew, Aramaic, ancient Babylonian, unchanged. Okay, gate to the Malach. It will be closed at night. It was closed at night maybe for security. Well, the European shtetl or European ghetto, the gates were closed at night because they were afraid of the Jews. That's why they closed the gates. But here it was to protect. Here's the back porch of the Rabbi Bitun synagogue. It faces the shuk, the market, or souk, the market. And as I said, here's the open house balcony in the Malach. You can see that one I showed you earlier. And like this is a fancy one. They have a little bit more money. Here we go. Advertising for the restaurant, their menu. You can get this a full banquet, full course meal for two for $120. It's not cheap. Okay. Yeah, American dollars. Yeah, it's 1,200 dirham. The bigger one is 1,800 dirham, so it'd be $180. Two. Got a lot of eating. That's expensive. Okay, when you go into the old Medina, the city itself, the walkways are, in Fez especially, very old city. That's a walkway. That's a normal walkway. That's your street. And they're narrow, but for protection purposes. Right? So an enemy, they won't fall down. Yeah, you can't fall down. You can't stand up either. The enemy cannot get inside. That's really for protection. That's how the houses in the Northeast, also in Spain, they're built. If you saw, the walls are solid walls on the outside and everything faces the inside. By the way, this was nice. We're there walking around, I see a stork's nest. And I said, well, the stork's interesting. It's an interesting symbol. Why is the stork there? Storks are migrating birds. You're going to go north-south to the passage that has the least traffic over water, least passage over water, because storks and other migrating birds need the air drafts from dry land to pick them up, and then they glide down. Well, you can't go across large bodies of water. So one way to go is Morocco, Gibraltar, into Europe. The other route is the land of Israel, because that's your land route. Africa, Sinai, Israel, settle there, then continue Turkey into Europe. The one other route is Italy, Tunisia, Sicily, Italy, because that's also a short route. The problem is there, to get there, you have a long travel over the desert, the Sahara Desert, and that can be difficult for some birds. So the two ends, that's an interesting reminder of how Morocco is a land, a bridge between Africa and Europe and East and West. Here another synagogue, Abin Danan synagogue. You see the plaque, the entrance. And here inside the synagogue, this one a little bit older, you can see not quite as refurbished as the other one. It's still being used by claim. I don't know who is there to daven. This, what you see in front of you, is specifically a Sephardic innovation in synagogue design. It's taken from the Muslims, in which there's a platform for the darshan, for the speaker to speak and give the sermon. It was not in earlier synagogue designs. It was not repeated in Ashkenazic designs. Al-Mimar, the speaker stand. And then this is the bima. This we're familiar with. The synagogues in the center. And what would you find in the synagogue? Of course, the Sefer Torah. And it was open to that week's Torah portion. I don't know if by chance or if they actually go through and switch it every week. I don't know. It's the 17th century Torah. And then, of course, you have the mikveh in the synagogue. The staircase down under the floor of the synagogue, you go down and you go into the water. You're welcome to try it out yourself. I don't know. And then cemeteries, about visiting graves. So Fez has, and some of the other cities have very magnificent Jewish cemeteries. Here is in Fez a list of the chief rabbis of the community since 1672. In other words, they had a very large Jewish community, a lot of rabbis that served them. At least the Grand Rabban entré en Fez depuis the 17th century. I won't try to say it in French. Okay, now this was interesting. We come to a grave of Solika Hatchuel. Haguel. The Jews called her Sol HaTzadikah, the righteous soul. The Arabs called her Lala Suleika or Lala Zulika, the holy lady Suleika. The Arabs respected her. The Muslims respected her. What's the story? She was a martyr to her faith, preferring death to becoming the bride of the Sultan. And this is a painting. She was a popular subject of paintings. She was about to be beheaded. What's the story behind her? Young Jewish girl, she's tempestuous, got into an argument with the mother. She ran out of the house, ran to the neighbor's house, says, keep me from my mother, and I don't want anything with these Jews. The mother reports it to the authorities saying, oh, she wants to be a Muslim. She says, no, I didn't say that. I don't want to be a Muslim. Oh, once we suspect you of being a Muslim, you cannot come back to being a Jew. What are you talking about? So she fought with the Muslim authorities on her right to remain as a Jew, and they chopped her head off. That was the beginning of the 1800s, right? That's up until modern times. Islamic law still is in some states. If you convert away from Islam, you're in danger of your life. So she became considered a martyr and a saint, and people, both Muslims and Jews, would go to her grave. So this is her grave, Solika Haguel. It was interesting, one of our friends on the trip has the same last name, so he's trying to see if there's any family connection. But she's Fez, and his family's from the Balkans. And I have here the inscription enlarged. Here you can see, born in Tangier, 1817, assassinated in Fez, 1834, at the age of 17, because she refused to convert. What's Arat Shed? Anybody know? The Safamil. And the whole world mourns this saintly child. The story also goes on that the king wanted her, but he could only take her as a Muslim. She refused. That may be why he had her beheaded also. There's another grave for a great rabbi scholar, Yudah ibn Attar, and the Ibn Attar family, major family of rabbis, 1733. There was another Ibn Attar who influenced around the same time, who was one of the major influences on Hasidism. And Hasidim and the Kabbalistic rabbis of Morocco have this in common, that they're wonder rabbis, miracle makers. That's how the Hasidim look at their rabbis. That's how the Moroccans look at their rabbis. Visiting the rabbis' graves in Hasidic culture, very important. Visiting in Moroccan culture, very important. So the two extreme ends of the civilizations were in close touch with each other. Another place, Mogador, or the current name, Soira, a Jewish trading outpost, now abandoned. And we went for dinner into this restaurant and said, oh, Jewish. The owner of the building was Jewish. They left, but they still own the building. And and come back from time to time to check up on it. It was a wine cellar. They were wine merchants. I turned into a restaurant, very nice one. You can get a nice meal there for a good price. Here, a monument to somebody, Moses Aseg, who donated 100,000 dirham for the Jewish Academy and so on. And here is still you can see in the walls, the mezuzah. Notice the mezuzah mounted in cement. When you've got stone walls, you can't just hang up a mezuzah. You have to dig into the stone and then bury the mezuzah into the stone. That's true, like in the old city, also in Jerusalem. And here, a street in the Malach, you can see is very run down. Nobody's been living there since 1950s, abandoned completely. A reminder, Ru al-Malach, the street of the Malach. And a school, the remainders of a school. So this is still preserved there in the school and the museum. This is the kids' daily routine, what they had to study. Musar means ethics, reading, Torah stories, writing, song and recitation. They get a break, numbers, math, Hebrew, exercise, and prayers, right? That's there. And then we have the kids' report cards. Oh, somebody's report card. So the top student here, Aaron Ibn Chaim, gets a 10 in reading, a 10 in tefillah, gets a 57 total. He's the top student. Then the poor guy on the bottom, we won't say his name, we don't embarrass him. He was not doing so well. Interesting, I see, right? It's a Sephardic community. Not everybody was Sephardic here. Eisenrod, Moshe Eisenrod, right? It's a Yiddish name, right here. So it's a mixed community, even that's more than 70 years ago. Here's the entrance to the Pinto synagogue, the synagogue and the Museum. Pinto, it's the same family on Pico Robertson at Pico at between La Cienega and Robertson. There's a Pinto synagogue. It's the same family. It's run by the rabbi's descendants here in LA. Very famous Kabbalistic rabbi. There's a well. You can get your kosher water there from the well. Plus, better be, I don't know. Okay. And then in Casablanca, we went to Shabbat. Casablanca didn't take any pictures in the synagogue. There was, and that's the big center, but there's not much left of Jewish life in Casablanca. There's maybe a few hundred Jews, and there was nobody in shul. Almost nobody. There was like about 20 people. Half of them were the tourists. But the synagogue's been remodeled and kept up very nicely. You go to TripAdvisor, you see a lot of photographs. They've done a magnificent job of remodeling the synagogue, so it's open. It's mainly, as I said, mainly for tourists and a few of the locals. So with that, I hope you enjoyed my trip to Morocco. We'll finish up with some music. I wanted to finish with Adon Olam. Okay, let me find it. I want to find it. It's a Yigal rather than Adon Olam with a Moroccan. He's actually Algerian, but he's Berber, supposedly origin. Enrico Macias, one of the great folk singers, public singers in France. Here we go. Enrico Macias. Is my speaker? Is it coming out? Yeah. Hold on. Sort of silent. Let me see if I can get this. What happened to my share? Okay, give me 1 second. We'll wrap him up again. Wait a minute. Oh, I didn't share sound. It helps. Check. Now. There. I don't know what I'm saying. But you go.
Je vais respecter une tradition. Je vais vous interpréter un chant religieux accompagné par de la musique arabo-andalouse.
Music. Sing along. It's you guys on page 3. No, the haircut. That's the Frenchified. Yeah, the Algerian Jews are very cool. Well, the Moroccans also.
יגדל אלוהים חי וישתבח נמצא בין עתים מציאותו אחד ואין יחיד כיחודו נאמן וגם אין סוף ליחדותו תמות הגוף ונוגו לא נערוך אליו קדושתו אדמון לכל דבר אשר נברא ראשון ואין ראשית לראשיתו יגדל אלוהים חי וישתבח נמצא בין עתים מציל אותו. אדון עולם לכל נוצה יורה גדולתו ומלכותו שפע נבואתו ניתנו אל אנשי זיכרונתו בתפארתו יגדל אלוהים וישתבח נמצא בין עתי מציל אותו יגדל אלוהים חי וישתבח נמצא בין עתי מציל אותו.
Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Next week, we're going to mark Jewish Heritage Month. May is declared officially as American Jewish Heritage Month. So that's going to be our focus next week. Everybody, Shabbat Shalom.